Breaking tonight, two major exclusive interviews you won't see anywhere else. Hello and welcome to Justice. I'm Judge Jeanine Pirro. Thanks for being with us tonight. In just a few moments, I'll speak live with the attorney for O.J. Simpson, who won parole just 2 days ago. Malcolm Laverne answers my questions about his conversations with Simpson since the parole decision and what O.J.'s future holds. But first, a shakeup in President Trump's administration. Counselor to the president, Kellyanne Conway, is here with me in New York in a moment. We'll talk about the abrupt resignation of Sean Spicer, the appointment of Anthony Scaramucci as communications director, as well as some of the president's tweets this morning that have everyone talking. Meantime, President Trump spent his Saturday showing off an awesome display of American military might. The USS Gerald Ford, the largest and most expensive aircraft ever built, was commissioned by the president today in a stunning ceremony in Norfolk, Virginia.
American steel and American hands have constructed a 100,000-ton message to the world. America might is second to none, and we're getting bigger and better and stronger every day of my administration. That I can tell you. And our enemies will shake with fear because everyone will know that America is coming, and America is coming strong. The USS Ford cost almost $13 billion to build and will be home to some 4,500 sailors. Today's ceremony capped off Made in America Week at the White House, in which the Trump administration highlighted U.S. manufacturing, a powerful message. But was it once again dwarfed by some of the president's tweeting today? With me now to talk about that and so much more, Counselor to the President of the United States, Kellyanne Conway. Kellyanne, thanks so much for being with us tonight.
My pleasure.
All right. Anthony Scaramucci. You know, some say that's a sign of chaos in the White House, but I don't think anyone can deny it's been a shakeup.
Look, Anthony and the president and I have all said the same thing. Very grateful to Sean Spicer for his service as press secretary and his service to the nation as a patriot. He serves in our military. And Sean felt like it was the right time for him to leave, given the new hire, but the president wanted Sean to stay, and I think we should all be grateful for him. Very excited that I believe the first mother ever, Sarah Huckabee Sanders, will take the podium and be our press secretary. I find that to be particularly gratifying, that she's a Republican and a conservative who's going to do that first and foremost. It's a great perspective coming from the podium. But Anthony, you know, people are saying he's a street fighter. He's also a self-made businessman. He's a true American success story, as is Donald Trump. But he's also somebody who can run a C-suite meeting as well as being a street fighter. And I think people are misreading this, that this is really to get somebody to defend the president. We're going to go out there and play offense. You know, Sean Spicer had a talent that I think went undervalued, which is he had a great communications mind when it came to pulling out of the Paris Accords, when it came to working on tax reform, or Made in America Week. He had a good way of marshaling all the resources together to make sure that we were getting regional and social media hits, that the president's message is breaking through. But we need more of that, because this is a media that has decided it's going to be very hostile and stop every chance it gets, just wear its stop sign constantly when we try to get our message out. Great new poll, very quickly. People were asked, which of the following issues is most important to you? Healthcare, 35%. Got like 10% of the coverage.
Interesting.
Russia, 6% most important issue, received 75% of the coverage. Immigration, 10% most important issue, 0% of the coverage. So this White House, with Anthony Scaramucci's help and the whole comms and press team together as one, Jeanine, we're going to force the message through so that people stop talking about the nonsense, the garbage that doesn't create a single job, that doesn't release one bit of energy production, that doesn't put ISIS in retreat, and to show all the news, the incredible accomplishments this president has had in the first 6 months.
You know, Anthony Scaramucci, and I know him, and I think very highly of him.
As
I mean,
do
you
I.
know, he came in. you know, you can call him a street fighter, but what you can't deny is, in spite of his, you know, he doesn't have any training in journalism or communications. He's smooth, he's strong, he takes no prisoners, and, you know, he came in as though this was something, I mean, before he even hit the podium, the way he looked, the way he started talking, he is as comfortable as anyone could be at that podium.
Well, he's confident. Remember, the podium will really be Sarah Huckabee Sanders. She's the press secretary, but the comms director will be a face out on television like this, certainly take the podium when it's appropriate, when he feels it's best. But this is, you know, I've talked to Anthony several times since this happened, and he basically says what so many of us in the White House say, that we will do what the president needs us to do to best serve him, his administration, and this country. And everybody takes different skill sets into the West Wing, and it's the president who really decides what combinations are best. But, you know, Anthony's got that New York swagger also. But I think people see, and when they hear his life story, when they hear about his immigrant background,
great life story.
He really does. He's an incredible success story. He's a very generous, humble person that I've known him to be that way. And you see somebody who, I think it reminds me of the campaign shakeup a year ago, which is you just want to put the people in place who can help the leader be who he is and to help him to succeed and put his message out there.
I mean, there are reports that Reince Priebus and Bannon were dead set against it, and even a quote, "Over my dead body would Scaramucci come in." Now, my question is, you know, what happens to Reince Priebus now? What happens to those people who were so opposed to Scaramucci coming in? And Scaramucci, to his credit, never lost his cool. He stayed on course, and it makes me a believer that he is going to deliver and be able to deliver for the president. But what about Priebus? Are his days numbered?
We've been hearing that since day one. He was with the president today down in Norfolk, and then then they were in Virginia together as part of a larger lunch. We all serve with the pleasure of the president, and I just want to say something. It really doesn't matter who wants you to serve or not to serve, as I have learned, as long as the president does and the vice president does.
But one of the things,
and people,
as someone who's run an office myself, and I'm sorry, Kellyanne, one of the things that I know full well is that if you have a team, you have to make sure that that team can get along and that they're not undercutting each other.
Well, and that they're there for the president. I mean, if you're there curating whoever you are, I'll say in any White House, if you're there curating your own image, if you're there worried about who's got primacy and who's got access to the president, you're not worried about serving the people who are doing and working on your portfolio, I think it ends up showing, particularly for a president like Donald J. Trump, who's been in business and has employed tens of thousands of people over time. He gets people better than anybody I've ever seen in terms of he knows who's working and who's not, and he knows who's, you know, if they're there for him or if they're not. But he makes these decisions. I think it's a great team, and Anthony he's bent on coming into an existing team and fitting in and being a piece of the action, and I think a piece of the aggression when we need it, as the president sees fit. And I'm thrilled.
Benefit. Let's talk about Jeff Sessions. Now, Washington Post now reporting that the Attorney General, at the time a senator, was having conversations with Kislyak, or at least Kislyak reported that to his bosses, allegedly. Makes it look as though the Attorney General is in even more trouble.
Well, we should all be concerned about these leaks. This is what the president keeps talking about, too. You wouldn't know this unless somebody was leaking the information. Right. I think it was reported somewhere the intelligence community says about 60 leaks since President Trump has been there, as opposed to a handful or so when President Obama was at this juncture in his administration. That's really what should concern everybody, because if you're willing to leak information, you're not loyal to the administration, to the president, to the country. And also, eventually, you may imperil this nation by leaking into that kind of intelligence. Does the Attorney
General have the confidence of the president?
Yes, that was said the other day. The president said he was disappointed that the Attorney General recused himself. He didn't think it was necessary. The president makes very clear he thinks the whole Russian investigation is nonsense, is a witch hunt, as he calls it. You see, I would note for you, as I did earlier, the polling shows that people are focused on health care, taxes, immigration, national security, and the media is focused on Russia.
Russia doesn't.
And also,
you know what? My open last week.
These investigations are stalled, though. But it's so true. I call it the Russian concussion. Jeanine, is true, because it means
let me get some questions out. We don't have a lot of time left. Now, one of the ideas, one of the things that happened this week, Made in America America Week. You know, they say that the president's tweets kind of overshadowed it. But, you know, there's one issue that bothers me, and that has to do with nuclear imaging and medical isotopes. And my understanding is that the U.S. has no domestic manufacturing capable of creating these facilities for the medical imaging, which is so important, and that we rely on Iran for the medical isotopes, for the nuclear isotopes for medical imaging. Is that fair to the American people?
Well, without commenting on that specific issue, I will tell you this, that this president has expressed concern and is making good on his promise already to bring back manufacturing jobs. Millions of manufacturing jobs lost, 60,000 factories or so shuttered in a short course of time. And between that and the regulatory rollback that you've seen in the first 6 months, the 14 Congressional Review Acts, which some project saved about $70 billion over time, health care reform is on its way, tax reform is next. You see TPP, we pulled out of there. We're renegotiating the North American and South Korean free trade agreements. This president is unleashing energy. He's got an infrastructure plan. He's committing money to opioid abuse. I say all this because we never hear about this.
I know that.
We never hear about this.
We heard something today, and in 20 seconds, that the president is considering pardoning himself if something were to happen, or members of his family.
Well, I mean, that's the way the media portray things all of the time. They don't. Look, I think it's easier than learning the finer points of healthcare reform or tax reform, which
to make
are really
an accusation
difficult.
Like that.
But look, what the president said in this tweet is very important. He's saying, why would we even talk about pardons when the only crime so far are the leaks? And that's an excellent point. He said something similar to, you know, crediting Sean Spicer. He said this guy took a lot of abuse from what he calls the fake news. But here he said the only crime I see so far are the leaks.
Well,
and then,
you know
and then he says the crimes committed by Hillary Clinton and her ilk with the 33,000 emails.
But let's see if someone will actually prosecute the leaks. Well, that's what I'm waiting for, but I'm not holding my breath.
There you go. But it's good that people hear it, and they hear it on shows like this, so the transparency and accountability are there. So thank you for that.
Kellyanne Conway, thanks so much for joining us tonight. And it was the parole hearing watched by millions across the country. Next, the lead attorney for O.J. Simpson, Malcolm Laverne, joins me live in a worldwide Justice exclusive. I'll ask him what O.J. has told him since his parole decision about his future, his past, and whether he's heard from his children with late wife Nicole Brown Simpson. My exclusive interview with O.J.'s lawyer is next. Then, how can President Trump and the GOP plow through his agenda with all the distractions from the media and the liberal left? Former Republican Congressman Alan West joins us live with some insight on that, plus the White House shakeup. Stay with us as justice rolls on.